Hey guys, grab your popcorn because today I'm taking you straight to the heart of Lagos, Victoria Island, where our story begins. Meet Richard, the only son of Mr. Benson, a billionaire hotel tycoon. Wealth surrounded him, but his heart longed for something money couldn't buy. Love, real love. The type not bought with flashy cars or endless credit cards. He wanted a heart that saw the man. But in Lagos, especially around Banana Island, finding someone who loved you for you and not your bank account was war. So Richard decided to pull a stunt, disappear from his father's watch, and live as an ordinary guy for 3 whole months. His plan? Disguise himself as a waiter in a busy restaurant on Allen Avenue, IKEA. No one would suspect the billionaire's son. He cut his hair short, ditched his designer suits, bought cheap shirts from Belogan Market, and even borrowed scuffed shoes from the driver. On his first day at Mama K's kitchen, the smell of jollof rice and suya smoke welcomed him like an old friend. "New waiter?" Mama K's voice thundered from behind the counter. Richard smiled nervously, nodding, praying she wouldn't guess he once ate gold-plated spoons. His first challenge came fast. A customer shouted, "Waiter, where's my goat meat? Are you blind?" Lagos Wahala had officially started for Richard. He swallowed his pride, apologized, and dashed back to the kitchen. In his mind, he whispered, "Welcome to real life, Benson Jr." By evening, his feet were on fire. He had never worked this hard, not even during his father's golf tournaments. But something unexpected happened that night. A girl walked in. Her name was Claire. Beautiful smile, no flashy jewelry. She ordered a mala and uadu, not lobster or champagne. And the way she said thank you to him felt like music. Guys, you know that moment in Nollywood movies when the hero sees the heroine for the first time? Yeah, Richard was finished. For the first time, his heart wasn't guarded by suspicion. But he had to remember, she thought he was just a waiter. He decided not to reveal anything. He wanted to see if her kindness stayed the same, even when she thought he had nothing. But Lagos had other plans. That night, fellow waiter Frank hissed, "New boy, stop smiling at customers. You're not here to find girlfriends." The bullying started. Frank accidentally spilled hot pepper soup on Richard's shirt. Twice. Mama Kay shouted at Richard for being clumsy. Back at his tiny rented room in Surulere, Richard stared at the ceiling, wondering if he could survive this new harsh life. But he remembered his goal. True love was worth any pain, even pain that smelled like pepper soup. The next week, Claire returned. She recognized him instantly and smiled. Richard's day instantly became brighter than the Lagos sun after heavy rain. "You look tired," she said softly. Richard laughed. "First week here. I'm learning the ropes." She didn't seem to care about his tired face. They chatted briefly. She spoke about her job at a small bookstore in Yaba. Her eyes lit up when she mentioned reading. Richard didn't fake anything. He spoke simply, avoiding the polished, fake charm rich kids often used. And she seemed to enjoy the conversation. But Frank was watching, and in Frank's mind, no new waiter was going to steal attention from customers or staff. That night, Frank cornered Richard in the back alley. "Stay away from Claire. She's out of your league." Richard just smiled and walked away. Frank didn't like that smile. The next day, he told Mama Kay that Richard had been giving customers wrong change. Mama Kay exploded. "Richard, are you trying to spoil my business?" He tried explaining, but her face was harder than Lagos traffic at 6 p.m. Claire overheard the shouting. She quietly slipped Richard a bottle of cold water later, whispering, "I believe you." That meant everything to him. The following week, Richard learned how to carry 5 plates at once. No more spilling stew on customers. His waiter skills were leveling up. Mama Kay started warming up to him, but Frank was still determined to make his life miserable. One evening, a group of flashy young men walked in, loud, arrogant, spraying money around. Richard knew the type. He used to be one. He served them calmly, but one of them, Desmond, clicked his fingers and said, "Waiter, hurry up. We're not paying for slow service." Richard bit his tongue. In his old life, he would have thrown them out. But here he had to swallow every insult. Claire noticed his patience. Later she said, "You're not like the others here. You..." "Listen." Her words were the best tip he'd ever gotten. Slowly, their friendship grew. They'd meet after her bookstore shifts, walking down the streets of Yaba, talking about dreams, Lagos, and life. She told him she didn't believe in flashy love, only honest hearts. Richard silently prayed she'd never find out the truth too soon. But trouble was brewing. Frank overheard a phone call Richard made to his driver, ordering supplies for his father's company. Suspicion grew. And in Lagos, secrets are like akara. Once hot, they spread fast. Frank planned to expose him, and chaos was on the way. One Friday evening, Frank followed Richard after work. Through the streets of Surulere, he trailed him like Lagos traffic trailing a fuel tanker. Richard stopped at a roadside suya stand. Frank hid behind a kiosk, watching closely. This guy's too polished to be a real waiter. Back at work Monday, Frank hinted loudly, "Some people here have secrets, oh, big secrets." Mama Kay's eyes narrowed like a cat spotting fish. Richard felt the pressure, but Claire's laughter each evening kept him grounded, like fresh breeze blowing through Lagos on a hot afternoon. She even invited him to her bookstore. "Come Saturday," she smiled. Richard promised he'd be there, no matter what. That Saturday, he wore his cleanest shirt and old jeans. No luxury brands, just an ordinary man visiting a friend's world. The bookstore smelled of paper and coffee. Claire looked beautiful, arranging novels. "You came," she said, eyes sparkling like Third Mainland Bridge lights. They talked for hours about books, dreams, and Lagos. No one had ever made Richard forget his troubles like she did. But outside, Frank waited. He had called a friend from a gossip blog, hoping to catch Richard doing something suspicious. When Richard left, Frank snapped a photo and whispered, "Soon everyone will know you're not who you pretend to be." The next week, a famous food critic visited Mama Kay's kitchen. Everyone was nervous. Even Mama Kay wore her good gel. Richard served the critic's table. Calm, polite, no mistakes. The critic smiled and said, "Best service I've had in Lagos." Mama Kay beamed. For the first time, she told Richard, "You might last here after all." Frank's face twisted like unripe mango. Claire came in that evening, congratulating Richard on the critic's praise. Her encouragement meant more than all his father's money ever could. But the pressure of hiding his real identity weighed heavier each day. He knew secrets had a way of exploding in Lagos. That Thursday night, a sudden heavy rain trapped him and Claire under a bus stop roof in Yaba. "Tell me something you've never told anyone," Claire said playfully. Richard froze. His mind raced like Okada riders in Lekki traffic. He finally said, "I wasn't always a waiter. I had more before, but I wanted a simple life." Claire smiled gently. "I think I understand." But deep down, Richard knew that wasn't the whole truth, and it would haunt him. The next day, Frank struck. He printed Richard's photo and posted it online. "Billionaire's son working as waiter. What's he hiding?" Lagos Twitter exploded. Memes, rumors, and wild theories flooded the internet. Mama Kay stormed into the restaurant, waving her phone like a weapon. "Richard, is this you?" she barked. Silence fell. All eyes were on him, plates of steaming Efforiro frozen midair. Richard admitted quietly, "Yes, my father owns Benson Hotels. I came here to find someone who loves me for me." Mama Kay's mouth fell open. Customers whispered. Frank smirked, satisfied. The room felt heavier than Lagos heat without NEPA light. Claire didn't speak immediately. Her eyes searched his face like she was looking for the man she thought she knew. She finally said, "You lied to me." Her voice was soft, but it cut deeper than any insult Richard had ever heard. Richard tried explaining. The disguise, the mission for true love, the desire to escape the golden cage of wealth. But Claire shook her head and left. Richard's heart broke, his reason for this whole journey slipping away into Lagos night. Mama Kay kept him on, but the magic was gone. Customers now took selfies with him, calling him billionaire waiter. Frank basked in victory. "Told you," he whispered one afternoon. Richard ignored him, but inside he knew the damage was real. Weeks passed. Richard's shifts became robotic. No more laughter, no more light in his eyes. Lagos had taught him humility and heartbreak. But one evening, while serving a quiet corner table, he saw her, Claire. She'd returned holding a book in her hand. "Can we talk?" she asked softly. Richard nodded, heart pounding like drums at a Yoruba wedding. They sat after closing. Claire said, "I was angry, but I've thought about it. Your reason, it was strange, but honest." Richard's voice trembled. "I didn't want you to love the billionaire's son. I wanted you to love the man." Claire sighed. "I like the waiter, but I need time to see if I can trust the man behind him." That night, Richard couldn't sleep. He decided to prove himself, not with money, but with actions that showed his heart. He volunteered at Claire's bookstore on his days off, helping organize shelves, carrying boxes, making coffee for customers. Slowly, the laughter returned. Not as loud as before, but enough to remind him why he started this journey. Frank lost interest in tormenting him. After all, gossip dies in Lagos faster than plantain chips left open on the table. One afternoon, Claire surprised Richard with lunch at Mama Kay's. She laughed watching him serve, saying, "You're actually good at this." "Good enough to work forever?" he teased. Claire smirked. "Maybe, but I want to see how you handle real challenges." The challenge came faster than expected. Mama Kay collapsed one busy Friday. Customers panicked. Richard took charge, organizing the kitchen like a battlefield. Claire watched him work, calm, decisive, respectful. By closing time, the restaurant was still running smoothly, and Mama Kay was recovering. That night, Claire told him, "You've changed. You're not the same man who walked in here months ago." Richard knew she was right. He had learned humility, patience, and that love wasn't a trophy. It was trust built daily, but he still feared losing her. Lagos had a way of distracting hearts with flashy distractions and quick excitement. One evening, they walked along Lekki Beach. The sun dipped into the water like palm oil and stew. "So," Claire said, "when this is over, what happens? Do you go back to your father's hotels?" Richard hesitated. "Maybe, but only if you'll be part of that future. Otherwise, I'll stay wherever you are." Claire didn't answer immediately. Instead, she handed him a novel. Inside the cover, she had written, "Prove to me this love is real." Richard carried that book everywhere. It was his reminder that love needed constant work. Over the next weeks, he kept showing up, not just at work, but in the small, quiet moments that built trust, helping her set up a children's reading program, walking her home after late bookstore shifts, listening more than he spoke. Slowly, her guarded smiles turned warm again. Richard felt hope blooming like hibiscus flowers after rain, but life threw another curveball. His father showed up at Mama Kay's, dressed in a crisp suit, looking completely out of place. "Son, this has gone on long enough. Come home. We have a business to run," Mr. Benson said, ignoring the customer staring. Richard refused. "Not yet. I'm not done here." His father's jaw tightened like bolts on Third Mainland Bridge. Claire overheard. That night she said, "If you're willing to stand up to your father for this, maybe you're serious after all." The next day, Mama Kay officially made Richard assistant manager. Even Frank clapped, muttering something about rich boy learning hustle. The weeks that followed felt lighter. Customers treated him like family. Claire's trust was slowly rebuilding, piece by piece. Then one Saturday, a massive rainstorm flooded half of Ikeya. The restaurant's roof started leaking like a broken tap. Richard led the repairs, wading through water, serving customers under umbrellas. Lagos survival mode activated. Claire arrived soaked, helping mop floors and keep books safe. Working side by side, they laughed like old times. That night, they sat outside under a shared umbrella. Claire said softly, "I think you've proven enough." Richard's heart soared higher than EO Festival dancers, but he stayed calm, remembering patience was key. "Then let's take this one day at a time," he said. Claire smiled, and it felt like Lagos lights on a clear night. His father visited again, but this time he sat, ate Mama Kay's jollof, and said, "Maybe this place made you a better man." Richard laughed. "It did, more than all your board meetings combined." His father didn't even argue, just nodded, impressed. And so, the man who once had everything learned the value of earning something worth more than gold. someone's true, unshakable love. Months passed. Richard still worked part-time at Mama Kay's, even as he slowly returned to helping run Benson hotels. But this time, he treated staff with the respect he'd learned carrying plates in a crowded Lagos restaurant. Claire visited the hotels, helping him set up reading corners in the lobbies. She said, "If you want love, share it." They still strolled Yaba streets, still ate suya from roadside stands, still talked about life like money didn't exist. Richard never hid behind fancy cars again. Instead, he drove his old second-hand Corolla more often than the Bentley waiting in the garage. Mama Kay proudly told customers, "That's my assistant manager turned hotel boss. He learned sense here." Even Frank eventually apologized. "You proved me wrong, rich boy." Richard grinned. It's just Richard now. Lagos life continued. Noisy, unpredictable, full of drama. But now Richard embraced it with gratitude instead of entitlement. One warm evening, under the glow of Lagos streetlights, Richard finally asked Claire the question he'd been holding in his heart. "Will you marry me?" She smiled, tears shining like raindrops on tin roofs, and whispered, "Yes." The restaurant erupted in cheers when they told Mama Kay. Even customers joined in, clapping like it was a Saturday Wambi. Their wedding wasn't flashy, small, beautiful, filled with laughter and love. No gold-plated cutlery, just people who mattered. And somewhere in the middle of the celebration, Richard realized his journey had become a modern Lagos folktale. The rich man's son who found true love not in Banana Island mansions, but in the heart of a humble kitchen, from carrying plates to carrying promises, from dodging insults to earning trust. Every step had shaped him into the man Claire loved. The guests ate jollof so good it could solve political arguments. Mama Kay personally supervised the cooking. Frank even danced, shocking everyone. "I'm only dancing because the suya is good," he shouted over the music. Richard's father made a short speech. "My son taught me something. Sometimes you need to lose everything to gain what truly matters." Claire's eyes never left Richard's. In that gaze was the answer to every doubt he'd ever had. Their honeymoon wasn't in Paris or Dubai. They chose a Boudou mountain resort, enjoying the beauty of their own country. Each morning they laughed over breakfast, remembering the days of pepper soup spills and stolen moments in Yaba. Love had grown in the soil of honesty, watered by patience and shaded by humility. When they returned, they visited Mama Kay's together, still ordering amala and uwedu like old times. Customers greeted them warmly, remembering the waiter who became a husband without losing his kindness. Richard often told young staff, "No job is too small to teach you something important." Claire continued her bookstore work, now with more resources to grow literacy programs across Lagos. Their life wasn't perfect. Lagos traffic still tested their patience daily, but they faced it together. When people asked how they met, Richard always started, "It began when I carried a tray of amala to the right table." And Claire would finish, "And the waiter smiled like he'd known me forever." The story spread. Young people came to Mama Kay's hoping for their own love story between plates of jollof. Richard laughed hearing those tales. It wasn't magic, it was choices. Every day you choose to be real. Mama Kay, now healthy and strong, called him her son with 2 jobs, husband and hotel boss. His father visited more often, eating in the restaurant without suits or airs. Sometimes he even washed plates to see what made Richard strong. The family bond healed, not through money, but through shared moments and humility. And so, the folk tale of the billionaire waiter became a reminder in Lagos that love could bloom anywhere, even Allen Avenue kitchens. That true wealth wasn't counted in naira, but in trust, patience, and shared laughter on rainy Yaba nights. And that a man could lose everything and still end up richer if he found someone who loved his true self. Our Lagos streets still tell this story, not because it's perfect, but because it's real. And maybe, just maybe, somewhere in Mama Kay's kitchen, another love story is beginning, right now between 2 people sharing a plate of amala. And that, my friends, is the folktale of the billionaire waiter. From luxury to humble service, Richard discovered that true wealth isn't counted in money, but in love, humility, and shared laughter. If this story touched your heart, share it, drop a comment, and hit subscribe for more unforgettable African tales from Tales by Doria. Until next time, remember, every journey holds a story, maybe even yours.